Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. Fabulous to have you here. On today's episode, Bridgeport Mill. This thing is old. It's beat to hell and back. It was in really bad condition when I bought it. I've made it in a little bit of a worse condition with some mistakes I've made on it. Today, we are going to break it apart. See if there are some things we can fix. So to those of you that aren't familiar, this is a Bridgeport mill. This is a vertical knee type mill. This is the knee, this is the table, this is the spindle and the head. And so as you've seen in my videos, this thing spins and then you do stuff down here. The whole point of this is that it is accurate and we can get consistent travel in our y-axis, our x-axis, and our z-axis. Of course, we have a DRO to help us out with that. But let me run you through some of the problems. First of all, this thing is old and really worn. When a machine is first made, it's scraped in to flatness. And this scraping marks here, these scraping marks, they'll also help hold the oil. It's just part of making sure that everything is nice and flat and parallel and the mill runs correctly. But as you can see, we only have scraping marks here. As we go further in, you see these striations running lengthways up and down the ways. Now those are caused by dirt ingressing in under this carriage as it moves back and forth, and then wearing away at this material where obviously this spends the most time. And as you've seen in my other videos, this table is really, it's seen much better days. It came to me with a whole plethora of mistakes that people have made in it, and it's dinged up. Globally, it's, you know, relatively flat, but it's an old mill. It's seen some abuse, had a hard life, and I myself haven't been particularly friendly to it. I've used it on wood, and then occasionally neglected to clean it often enough, which then means that the wood gets trapped underneath the ways itself and then sticks to little bits of metal and helps grind out the ways some more. And I also once had a real catastrophe with it. About a year ago, I was working on a part and I had this way back there, and I was running the power feed. So running the power feed on my part, and all of a sudden I hear this and the power feed dies down. I know I've made a really bad mistake. You see that screw that is right there? With the table going in this direction, I rammed that screw, I believe, right there into that dovetail. Now that is the screw that holds on this, these glass scales here for the DRO, the digital readout. Amazingly, the DRO still functioned fine, but it has meant that a machine that previously was old and had a pretty good amount of slop in it, all of a sudden now has extreme backlash. A full turn of backlash, which is unacceptable. If you're unfamiliar with what backlash is, what it is that there is obviously a nut in there, and there is a screw in there. Here you have the thread, and here you have the contacting face of the screw. There's a gap between them. You have to touch it to be able to push and actually move the table. But of course, without that contact, or when you have that contact on one face, you then don't have the contact on the other face, and that causes the backlash because it's the amount that you have to reverse a thread until it then pushes it in the other direction. What I did has now caused me to have a full rotation of the screw of backlash, because underneath this table there is a nut, and it's a tubular looking thing that has a split in it, and then it has a tightening screw, which means that as it wears, you can tighten the nut together to close it up and get less backlash. Well, guess who went right ahead and snapped the cast iron bit that holds that screw on? Me! I did. I messed that up. Big time. Total schoolboy error, total rookie error. It is probably about time that I include the caveat that through this whole video, no, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I've never touched one of these things. I have ordered a manual, but it's not yet arrived, so don't trust anything I say as gospel. Now, that backlash, I can get away with it. It's frankly not the end of the world, and I've been using the thing just about fine for the past year. There is a more pressing issue there, however. If I'm here on this table and I give it a push and a pull, can you see that? Can you see that? That is, that's a lot of slop. That's a lot of slop. That's about a millimeter. Yeah, I'd say about a millimeter. You know, 0.8 millimeters. It's a lot of slop. That's just me doing this. That's a big problem, right? Because all that effort that I'll ever put into tramming up my vise to the x-axis of the mill really means nothing if, with cutting forces, because cutting forces will do that, this table will shift so much. It's not so good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this cover here. Now this supposedly will give me access to a gib. I figure I might as well take it out, give an opportunity to show you what it is, and an opportunity for me to clean it. Sorry, I should say an opportunity for me to see what it's like, because I've never seen one. That's one dirty gib. Oh, yuck. Oh yeah, I'm pleased I took that apart. Oh boy. I think I might be degreasing a few parts today. So I've now cleaned up these parts as best as I can, degreased them, gave that a little hit with a Scotch-Brite pad, and of course you can just see the amount of wear it has. Look at those scratches running down it. That is like really, really bad, really bad. While that was degreasing, I then pulled that back out there, and I took off the plate on the back side, and here it had these little leather pieces that act as wipers, presumably to help stop any ingress underneath the ways. You can see how nasty that leather is though. That has clearly been there a while. And it clearly hasn't been very useful for a long while either, because look at these scratches there. That is really sad that is the condition of the ways of my mill. That's nasty. You can see back here a little semblance of what it might have looked like. And then those scratches, I mean, that is rough. So I've cleaned this out with some rags that I've pushed through, some bits of paper that I've pushed through, then put some WD-40 in it and then pushed it through again, just to try and clean it out. And I tell you, some dirty wads came out of there, lots of chips, really bad. What I'm now gonna do is I'm gonna put some whey oil on it, and we are going to put the gib back in place, along with the screw. So my plan is to screw this in and see if we can, with the existing gib, get rid of all that slop that we had, or if we have to shim it. Let's give the table a wiggle. Still enormous amounts of slop. We'll tighten it some more, and that's it. That's all our travel. The slop is still there. So I'm going to pull this out. You ready for some hillbilly maths? I'm pretty sure I need an 1/8 thou shim, a 0.2mm shim, because this wants to be out another 12mm or so. So just taking a very rough idea, I took a known length that was twice our 12mm. I measured the difference in taper, and then half that difference, and with that guess, hopefully then 1/8 thou is what we need as the shim. So I saw a guy on YouTube do this with the long gib screw from the x-axis. Hopefully I can just about get this, and I did watch the video at about midnight while I should have been sleeping. Frankly, I don't know how much of it I remember. Oh well. Uh-oh. Look at that piece of fine craftsmanship. Anyway, I'm gonna oil this up, we're gonna put it in, we're gonna see how it fits. It still moves, it's in, so thankfully we can still move the table. It's not too tight, but critical part, and it's still got some slop. More tightening required. Oh, better. Maybe? I don't know, actually. Better? That's definitely better. Big time better. But as you can see, we are beginning to run out of travel there, so I don't know if we're gonna get it with this shim. Let's try again. Oh, hey, that feels a million times better than it was. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Let's see how it looks. Oh my goodness, that is 1/10 of the wiggle that we had at the beginning. See if we can get rid of any more with a little more tightening. Okay, that's nice. So we now have just a few thou of wiggle. The worry is, however, that it becomes too tight to use across the whole of its travel. So you see it starts to get tight all the way back here as we get into the material that's been less worn down by the really heavy use this has had. And if I go back the other way, nice free moving as I go to the middle of the travel of the table. And it's really not actually all that bad way back there. I'm gonna check the wiggle again from this side. Oh yeah, beautiful. So I've only got about 1/1000th of an inch of deflection back here on the table, and only about kind of 2/1000ths here. Now from any reading that I can find online, I think that that's actually probably a little bit tight, so I'm just gonna go a 1/4 turn off with the jib. Now it's about 4/1000ths of play, and it just means that it's just ever so much easier to turn here, and should put a little less stress on our lead screw and on my turning arm. While I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna fill up my oiler with some more oil and pump some through the system. So this now needs to go back on there, and as I said, it usually has a felt wiper, or the other side had some leather. I don't have any felt, I couldn't find my leather, and the idea of cutting apart this leather welding sleeve just seems a little sacrilegious. So to save money, I'm just gonna do this. So I've pulled the covers off the knee, I've cleaned it all out, and that exposes the gib that is on the knee of the mill. What I want to do is I want to see how much play is in it right now. So I've got an indicator set up, and I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but I'm going to be over here, and I'm going to give it a shake and see if there's any noticeable play. Nope, we're good. Whew. So I'm going to make up some more leather for these covers, little wipers, and we'll be good. Notice that this has significantly less wear. You can see the scraping the whole way, but there is the occasional seriously deep scratch. In fact, I'm just going to gently hit that one with a stone because it's a little proud there on the surface. So that must have been a very, very big chip that got in there. Man, that chip did some damage. I don't want to do any more than that. So there's one last thing I want to do today. Uh-oh! So of course, as you've seen today, there is a lot of damage that can occur when chips get on the ways and it gets underneath the machine. It scratches the ways, it's bad for accuracy, it's bad for the machine lasting a long time and being able to do accurate work. The operator can sometimes be to blame too. But in the interest of this machine not getting too much more damaged in the future, I would quite like to cover those ways and stop chips landing on them so much. That way I can keep a nice coat of oil on there. And so I'm going to take this rubber to hopefully we can make something that works. So check that out, boy, does this make me happy. I now have the ways protected, which means that they can have a nice healthy coating of oil. You see how I've got this to work? I took an end mill and a hand drill and just flattened off the back side of this rubber and super glued on magnets. I got these slightly too far out, but I've got 3 magnets up here. And on the underside here, each side has 2 magnets. This way, I'm not liable to rip the rubber out from where it is held. Here is the aluminum plate that holds in the leather wipers in this case. I drilled a hole in the rubber. That hole lines up here, and it just simply pinches the rubber. The screw goes into the hole in the rubber, and then these can then slip and move around, and I can easily pull them off. And so hopefully the magnets are going to work great. I'm going to be sure to report back and let you know how it works long term here with the magnets and this kind of flooring rubber. But this is super exciting, and all I can say is I wish I took this much care with the mill when I first got the thing, because it was in bad condition when I got it, but I'm sure I could have kept it a lot better than what it is now today. So I call that a really positive day. I'm pleased to have done some good maintenance here on the mill, and I'm looking forward on another day in the future, get this table all the way off there, and we're going to tackle that immense backlash there is. The gibs in the table are all good. I'm excited to keep running this mill and learning how to use it better. Thank you for coming along. If you have any tips, if you guys know about this stuff and you have any tips, please do always drop them in the comments. It is unbelievably helpful. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the very next episode. Bye-bye.